I don't think there's one person who can call themselves a Halo fan who has not committed one of Dante's 7 deadly sins for the Halo community. If you don't know at all what I'm talking about, you will in just a second. Hang on. A couple months ago, another YouTuber known as Voyan did the 7 sins of the Animal Crossing community, and essentially, in a pretty funny way, broke down how even one of the most wholesome video game communities in existence still falls into this cycle as a community online and supporting a video game. Now, I definitely can't say that Halo has the reputation of being the most wholesome video game community out there, but I definitely do think we could look at the 7 sins that originate from the famous literary works by Dante and see how and if any of these sins can be applied to the Halo community. And honestly, by the time we're done with this video, I think it's safe to say that most of us have fallen into one or all of these over the course of Halo's franchise and us being pretty big fans of Halo. It's just the way things are. But real quick, a huge shout out to Herman Miller for hooking Luke and I up with these really awesome Herman Miller Phantom chairs. Listen, just like if you're shopping for a mattress and you take into consideration the fact that you're going to be spending a lot of your night sleeping on something, you want to pay for something high quality. If you're like us, you probably spend a lot of the rest of your time maybe sitting in an office chair. Don't try to settle for a crappy $60 Amazon chair like I had that fell apart within a couple of weeks, when you can treat yourself to something nice like a Herman Miller Phantom chair. If you're interested in getting a really good premium chair, check out the link in the description down below. Let's go ahead and get back into the video. So let's start things off with one that is both hilarious and tragic at the same time. Greed. Well before Halo Infinite's release, a year even before the game actually released because of the delay, it was very clear that Halo was going to be hitting the marketing very hard when it came to this game moving forward, especially with the game being free to play. Microsoft definitely was down to do a ton of different partnerships for different skins or bonuses for some sort of product tie-in. And of course, when Halo Infinite came out, there was a ton of popularity with the game, and what better way to capitalize on the popularity of the game than to take some of these special promotional tie-in skins and then try to sell them on eBay for a profit. Yes, this is a thing that happens in a ton of different games, and Halo was definitely no exception when Halo Infinite came out, but with the amount of partnership tie-ins available, or in some cases, how hard it was to find some of these partnership tie-ins, there was a market for people who were willing just to spend their hard-earned money through some sketchy eBay posting to get a specific skin that they wanted. For instance, to this day, almost a year after Halo Infinite released, you can buy a $70 Deathly Poison BR rifle weapon coating for your gun. Just let that sink in. $70 for a third-party skin on a free-to-play game, all because of the exclusivity of some partnership deal that was made. I don't know how I feel about people reselling stuff just to make some big profit and kind of make it so aggressive, but hey, I guess that's how supply and demand works, and there's no reason that an eBay seller who has their hands on one of those skins wouldn't be a little bit greedy, trying to make the most bang for their buck. Now, what's worse though, the buyer or the seller? That brings us into the second deadly sin, pride. Now, we know that a big part of Halo is the customization of your character, and for the most part, people want to make their character look like something that they're proud of, something that they want to show off, and something that is cooler than anybody else. But there are definitely players that take this a step or a leap too far and are the types of people to spend $70 on a BR skin. But that's not the only type of players out there. There are also other players who, within minutes of Halo Infinite's multiplayer releasing, immediately bought and leveled their whole way through the battle pass just to get all of the skin cosmetics. I'm talking about Tails. He did that and then tried to convince us that he finished the battle pass in like a day, when we all knew that the way that the XP system worked was not at all possible. He definitely opened his credit card up for that. Now, the way I see it nowadays, you could either grind the game one of two ways. You could play the game for hours and hours, or you could work a 9-to-5 job, get your paycheck, and use the money that you grinded for in real life to get the cosmetics that you want in game. It's a grind nonetheless, but there's definitely people who take this armor stuff incredibly serious, and it's a big part and a big motivating factor to why they play. I caught myself falling into this one quite a bit because I just wanted a very specific gold visor or something that looked cool, and I'd be willing to play it out and grind and try to get whatever I wanted. Remember, it's totally a big deal not being able to make our fictional characters look exactly how we want, while also wanting a system to unlock stuff but not wanting to have to work too hard to unlock the stuff at the same time. But this category doesn't just stay reserved for cosmetics only. There's other types of players that take other features in Halo Infinite serious too, like people who grind out for Onyx. It's been pretty obvious, especially later on with Halo Infinite, that the ranking system was somewhat broken, but that didn't stop a lot of players to try to manipulate or cheese the system of ranking to make sure that they had the highest rank possible so that they could show off how good they were at Halo Infinite. Honestly, this was one that really maybe got to me because I spent so long just trying to make my way up to Diamond, and I finally got up to Diamond, and I had one of my players disconnect in my first Diamond match, and we lost a 3-4, and I got demoted down to like halfway through Platinum or whatever. Yeah, I felt destroyed. I felt like I was the worst Halo player in the world, and the ranking system doesn't even really work all that well. It doesn't change the fact that I wanted the swag of being able to say I was a Diamond player, or when Luke grinded his way up to Onyx. It's always been about the clout, and it always will be about the clout. Next, we're looking at Envy, and no, we're not talking about the Halo 2 skull. Envy is the one that a lot, if not most, Halo fans probably compromise on and fall into, but I think the best way to describe this is the longing for one thing that may never be obtainable. Or maybe it is obtainable, but we put ourselves through hell thinking about this, wondering and dreaming about the potentially unobtainable. And in this case, I think a lot of Halo fans dream about what Halo could look like if things were just made perfect. The Halo game that has been promised to fans for years and years that never lived up to the expectation that fans have had. And I think to this day, a lot of Halo fans, whether they're still playing Halo Infinite to this day or have been on hiatus for a long time, still think and imagine what a perfect Halo game would look like, and still continue to hold on hope that maybe one day Halo will become that game. And next on the wheel, we're looking at Lust, and surely with Halo there's nothing oh my god. Spartan asses, Cortana feet, cursed Halo fanfiction that's made by popular personalities in the Halo community that has some pretty creepy storytelling in there. We have the group of people in the Halo community who are horny for elites. I get that this is a military sci-fi shooter game, but no matter what game it is, there's always going to be people out there finding anything and everything they possibly can to sexualize. I don't think anyone's surprised by that at all, and it doesn't really matter if you're for it or against it. It just exists no matter what. So we can just go on to the next one. This next one's probably the most interesting one to me because it's something that is so overly abundant. Like, I mean, if we're going to talk about what is probably the most frequently seen one out of all of the deadly sins, can you guess it? Wrath or anger. There are examples upon examples of this, and I'm sure everyone has seen at some point or another someone incredibly frustrated about the state of Halo Infinite voicing their opinions online. Maybe you've even joined in on the conversation. I think in general the state of Halo Infinite, to say the least, is incredibly frustrating. And there are varying degrees of wrath out there when it comes to people's feelings towards the state of Halo Infinite. Now, of course, this being a sin on the list doesn't mean those feelings are not justified, but oh boy, have we always seen that one comment or something where someone just takes things way too far when it comes to addressing their feelings about Halo Infinite. I mean, the tip of the spear is definitely when we start seeing death threats show up for employees who work on a video game. Honestly, it doesn't matter what game franchise you're a fan of, if you're at the point of literal death threats, you probably need to reevaluate your priorities and maybe just take the L that the fact that Halo Infinite's just gonna be what it is. Now, going back with criminals being set aside and just the more standard discourse we see online with Halo Infinite and the criticisms, frustration, and anger that regular people talk about all the time, there's one community that's probably more toxic than this, that like not quite is at the level of, you know, criminal activity sending death threats, but like is a couple steps down and are the Halo fans who hate angry Halo fans. Now, this is a subcategory that is very interesting, but also some of the most hilarious and maybe brain dead group of people that I've ever seen. And while there's nothing wrong with defending Halo Infinite if you're really passionate about the game, and if you have an opinion of Halo Infinite that's not necessarily the most popular opinion, maybe you think it's the perfect game out there, that's totally okay. But when you are fuming over the thought of someone else having a different opinion and voicing their opinion that they don't like Halo Infinite, chances are you're probably kind of making a fool of yourself online. And I've seen communities and groups of people like this on social media who will go as far as reposting someone's opinion or even a joke that someone made about the state of Halo Infinite, and then just get angry joining in a discussion about how much they hate the person who made that post. Don't get me wrong, you're totally okay to join in a conversation and even voice an opposing opinion, but the obsession over the most minuscule takes online, it's wild. If you need a good example of this, just go like on Twitter and read Arash's responses some of the time. The bigger the tweet is, the dumber the responses seem to be. Anyways, I'll get off this rant here before I fall into being one of the types of people who are so angry at the type of people who are angry at people who say things about Halo Infinite. But I think when it comes to discussions about video games online, we only need to take a step back and realize we're just people on the internet with opinions. It's a video game. I'm a person, my opinions aren't always correct. I'm not perfect, but the main point I'm trying to take away here is that the hill some people want to die on is absurd sometimes. Next on this list is gluttony, which essentially is excessive consumption of one thing or another. Now, when we had to think about this one, it was interesting because this is often looked at as something relating to food, but it really doesn't have to be about food. It can be anything. And in this case, I think this can fall into a lot of people who overconsumed Halo to the point of just completely despising the game. But even though the fact that they're disliking every minute that they are playing, they continue to play despite that. And I was trying to think of a good example of someone, and obviously Twitch streamer Momentum kind of came to mind here. I mean, besides the fact that Momentum is one of the best Halo players right now in the entire Halo community, he also streams matchmaking in Halo Infinite for 40 to 60 hours every single week. I actually reached out to him specifically during one of his streams to ask him why does he continue to play Halo Infinite so often despite kind of not really enjoying his time all that much. This was his response.
Why do I play Halo Infinite? Where do I begin? It's free to play, and it's honestly the best Halo game ever. Why do I play it constantly? The matter of fact that I can come back and be disappointed every single time, and knowing the game has not changed at all in the slightest since release, why would I switch games? It's like having this really lasagna and thinking it's going to get better, but you keep buying the same lasagna over and over for the same result. That's basically Halo Infinite.
I think if we even take a step back, another great example of someone in the Halo community who probably falls into this more often than other people would maybe even be the Actman. And I've seen people like really hate on him for this, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. But for instance, Actman has made multiple videos criticizing Halo Infinite, even going as far as making a video saying that he's done with Halo Infinite. And then people got all mad when Actman went to the HCS World Championship as a spectator, despite the fact that he said he was done with Halo Infinite. This is where majority of Halo fans are, I think, if they've stopped playing Halo Infinite themselves. I think so many Halo fans absolutely still love the core of Halo and are willing to go out and support anything that's still good happening within the Halo landscape. And despite how slow Halo Infinite's been and all of the criticisms that the game has had, the way that the competitive league is still exciting and engaging is really cool. And I don't think if you're criticizing one side of Halo, it doesn't mean you can't still support the things that are being done correctly or are on the right track. If anything, if you're going to voice your opinion about something like Halo and you set a standard of what you want for the franchise, I think it's a good thing if you're willing to support the franchise that you care about when there are things being done at least somewhat correctly. Just because Actman made a video saying that he's done with Halo Infinite doesn't mean he can't temporarily come back when things are going well. Maybe this ties in with the wrath and anger thing that we've already talked about, but I also do need to point out that some people in the community get way too worked up on what other people in the community are saying about Halo, and I think that over-consuming discourse about Halo is just as badly in the gluttony sin as well. And lastly, the 7th deadly sin, sloth. Now, of course, some people might be like, haha, there's a joke there because rocket sloth. But actually, I think this deadly sin is maybe one of the more melancholic sins of them all. There's really not all that much to it, but it's this feeling that a lot of us run into when the state of Halo or the gameplay of Halo just isn't what we are looking for in our day-to-day video game playing life. There's a moment that a lot of players have gone through already with Halo Infinite, or maybe will go through at some point, inevitably, where they'll pick up their game and play it one final time, and that'll be it for Halo Infinite. Until maybe one day down the line, they might come back to relive some nostalgia. I think it's safe to say most players who played Halo Infinite, at least for a little while, no matter where you stand on the state of the game and how the game ended up, had a lot of fun with some aspects of the game, and a lot of us are going to come back as more content continues to roll out. Whether it was experiencing the campaign and going in not knowing what to expect, playing in the flights and listening to the cool music that was in multiplayer for the first time, or even before that, just looking at the pre-release information about the game. No matter where you stand with Halo Infinite, and whether you're already done or you're holding out to see what content is there in the future, one day there's going to be the day where we all step away from a game and leave it for other shinier games out there, not necessarily realizing the significance as Halo fans of seeing the conclusion of a main Halo game entry. I fondly remember back to the last day I played Halo 3 before Halo Reach came out. While of course I went back to Halo 3 many times over the years, there was something very unique about that final night, knowing that Halo 3 was for the most part over. The heyday of Halo 3 was done. I actually took this screenshot that's still on my file share to this day with Tails and some other friend, I can't remember who it was, all the way back in 2010 before Halo Reach came out, just acknowledging that this was it for that era. And I'm sure everybody has had that experience with some game in the Halo franchise if you're a fan of Halo, and I think in a way that can also be very special too. Thanks so much to our patrons for supporting our channel and helping us out. If you think that our channel has ever provided some sort of content that you feel is worth any amount of monetary value, maybe you could consider throwing a couple of dollars our way on Patreon. It really helps us out a lot. Make sure you're subscribed for more videos. We'll see you all next time.